Do we have somebody who'd like to contribute from the east of England? I think the young woman at the back is about to explode. We wish...
Thank you, Speaker, and to my fellow NYPs. My name is Naveen, and currently I'm a student at Manchester University studying PPE. I am very proud of what I'm doing right now. But when I heard about tuition fees going up, when I went to my uni the next day, outroar was going on. It was shocking. There were massive posters of Vince Cable, like, plastered everywhere, big crosses all over his face. I love Vince Cable, but to be honest, Lord Brown, frankly, I do not agree with what he's doing. You can evidently see the outright it's causing. Now, fortunately for me, I can go to university because I can get my student loan. And I've gone to university to get a career, not a job. So I don't want the university to say, oh, you have to go and you don't need a degree. But I want to get a degree. I want to learn. University is about learning, not necessarily about getting a degree. But one thing we have realised, cleverly, with LSE, London School of Economics, they said this just recently, that if university fees went up, they'd remain a public sector university. But if they didn't, they'd go private. This is a process that happens in America. And we see how unfair and unprejudiced it is in America, with fees literally equaling at least quadruple the amount that we pay annually. I would be horrified to have to leave university with a debt of about £50,000. But here we have this right, this education. It's a privilege that we have in the universities in the UK. So Lord Brown, please reconsider, because I do not agree, personally, as a student, who will have to now think about, okay, can I afford to go to university anymore? Do I have to drop out my degree? It's a massive thing. And to conclude on one argument that I want to say about Lord Brown, I'm quoting just now, government will set a minimum entry standard in terms of UCAS points, each year taking into account the demand for university places and the budget available for them to pay. Students will not be eligible for financial support if the grades were below the standard. So, Lord Brown, what is the standard to attend university? Thank you.
I'm looking for a speaker from Yorkshire and Humberside. Who have we got? Gosh, we've got a whole gathering of you there. What about the young woman with blonde hair? Yeah. Yes.
No. I'm Poppy Joe from Leeds. And I'd just like to say that in 2008, I actually headed in the House of Lords for abolishing university tuition fees. And 2 years on, I still agree with those statements. I think it's ridiculous now, 2 years on, where we are, that now it's been higher. What we wanted then was to lower it, to not have it existed so everyone got the education they deserved. And it's not working that way. I understand that universities need the funding, but can't we find funding from somewhere else? I mean, maybe hire it a little, but not completely take the cap off. I sat the other day trying to write my personal statement for uni next year, and I sat on my computer at this blank screen, and all I could think about was the debt, the money, and how much I want it to go, and how much I knew that I can't. There's nothing more that I want to go to university. I've always wanted to go. That's something I've always planned to do. And now I'm doubting whether I can. Thank you.
Hi. Can we have a speaker from Northern Ireland, please, which is what we're looking for? Yes, the gentleman here. Thank you.
Corey Such for Northern Ireland. 50% of adults said that too many young people go to university and subsequently would not be against discouragement in the form of potentially fees or otherwise. However, recently in OECD university graduate rankings, these are the percentage of young people with a degree. We were third at one point and now we're 15. We're trailing behind countries like Ireland with 46% of young people having degrees, Poland with 50% and Finland with 63%. An OECD special advisor said, and I quote, "Fewer people with qualifications will mean a less successful economy. We need 50% of adults say we have too much. I say we have too little. We need graduates to get the economy back on track, and we need to do this by encouragement, not discouragement."
Thank you. Okay. The young woman here has been waiting patiently for some time. Have a go, please. We want to hear you.
I'm Julia Simon, and I'm honoured to represent Hammersmith and Fulham from London. You can see why university tuition fees are necessary. We cannot fund more and more people going to university. However, raising them is completely a flawed solution. You can't raise them until there's a guaranteed equal. We live in a meritocracy, not an aristocracy, and raising them, I believe, would just create more of an aristocracy.
It's now... Sorry, I know people are keen, but there are hundreds to accommodate. I'm doing my best. It's time for somebody from the northwest. And actually, at the moment, the girls are outdoing the boys, so I do need to call a young man at this stage. You, sir, who are busy... You. Yes, indeed. Yes, it's you. You're on the stage. You have the floor. Welcome.
I proudly represent the North of Warrington. I'd like to draw our attention to something the Right Honourable Mr James Bartle said before. He said, in front of all us NYPs...
I apologise for interrupting. People keeping a record need to know your name.
Right, Lance.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, the Right Honourable James Bartle said, you know, universities are fair in front of all us, members of Youth Parliament. Now, I wonder if you can tell me what's fair about this. Foreign students, at the moment, pay the same as those studying locally. So, in the EU, if you came from the EU to study in Scotland, you'd pay what the Scots pay, which is nothing. If I was to go to study in Scotland, I'd have to pay £1,175, probably going to go up more. I live in the EU. I'm discriminated against because I'm English and I can't study in Scotland for the same money. How on earth is that fair?
Okay. What about the young man just at the end of that little quarter? Yeah, you're looking round. No, chap to your right. Yes, you. Indeed. Welcome.
The fact of the case is that... Ben Lacey from North Yorkshire. The fact of the case is the government can't afford to put any more money into the university system, which is what is causing this rise to each individual in their student fees. But the other option is lessen the places, because the truth is there are too many people being driven into university when it's not the right option for them. More apprenticeships and more work placement would mean less strain on the university system and allow government to fund those spaces and give them the education they need without driving up debts for that individual. Thank you.
Something. Right, okay, we'll have you. You've been waiting very patiently.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Darryl Farrell, NYP for Kent and the UK Young Ambassador. Mr. Speaker, the Academy's bill will ensure Britain's education system is returned to an elitist two-tier Victorian system. When the Brown Report is adopted by the Coalition, the process of dividing the country's learners will be complete. We're told that lifting the cap on fees will have no effect on the numbers of young people. I'd argue that opinions such as this demonstrate how out of touch some really are, even going as far as cutting the Aiming Higher programme, which encourages young people to attend university. A generation of politicians that attended university for free now ensure thousands of disadvantaged young people are dissuaded from fulfilling their potential. Now that there's going to be VAT on the top of university tuition fees, with EMA, the Child Trust Fund, the Future Jobs Fund, Child Benefit, and of course VAT in January, we're all in this together. Surely young people are in it more than most.
I'm looking for a female speaker from the southwest. Can we have a female speaker from the southwest? Gosh, difficult. Okay, your good self. Yeah.
I'm Abby Swain from Devon. Just some rough numbers here. A 3-year degree for the current university levy, £9,900. Student accommodation for the first year, £150 a week over 40 weeks, is £6,000. Second year private rent over 52 weeks, £9,100. Third year private rent over 52 weeks, £9,100. Books for degree each year, £300 over 3 years, £900. Transport to and from university per annum, £500. This gives a conservative total of £35,500. So now consider raising the levy for the university up to £7,000 per annum. Recalculate this total and you get £46,000 and £600 plus 2.5% above inflation. Now consider a medical degree for 7 years, and then if someone wants to go to a Russell Group university, and the cost could be up to £12,000 a year. Now, in effect, this is discriminating against young people from poorer backgrounds, and I believe that everyone should be born into the world with an equal right to succeed. And even though this is never going to be achieved, I think that we should try and move one step further towards it, or in this case, prevent the government from moving a step backwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm afraid time's our enemy, and to conclude the debate, I do now need to call Mr. Daniel Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Always wanted to say that. Hilarious. What do you think the effect will be if tuition fees were to rise? That is the question that I have been asking the young people of Cheshire West and Chester, and they came back to me and said that people from low and middle income families would be put off from going to university, causing them to become institutions for the rich only. They said a rise in tuition fees would also cause the gap between the rich and the poor to increase, and said that it would be unfair that people who cannot afford to go to university should be deprived of the opportunities of those who can. Now, there's been a lot of strong support and justification for a rise in tuition fees, some of these being that university isn't always the right path for everyone to go down to get a high paid job. Other routes should be promoted by the government, such as apprenticeships, internships and college education. They argue that a rise in tuition fees would deter the very people who go to university to fool around for a couple of years at the taxpayers' expense, and it is said that reducing the number of people which go to university increases the value and the worth of a degree. Fairness. It's been mentioned in the media quite a lot recently, and also in this House today. I would like to ask the House to think about these following questions before they vote. Is it fair that the people who cannot afford to go to university don't have the same opportunities than those who can afford to do so? Equally, is it fair that the taxpayer should pay for your education when you take all of the benefits? Youth Parliament, should university tuition fees rise?
Thank you for another lively and well-informed debate, which I hope you enjoyed. Again, I say to people who didn't get called, don't despair, have another go. This, I'm afraid, is the daily experience of colleagues when normally the demand to speak exceeds the number of slots available. The Youth Parliament will now consider the third motion of the day and the last of the morning session relating to job opportunities as printed on the order paper. To move the motion, I call Mr. Mohammed Abbas Hanif.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the Youth Parliament, education is the passport to the future.